like to start our presentation. Well, the name of today's session is Take Control of Your Online Teaching. And today we will mostly talk about questions and issues that help you to organize your work. Organize your work. Meaning that we will talk about tips, tools, and devices that help you to make your online teaching more structured. Because in a usual sense, when we teach, we have some sort of documentation, organization, filing system, I don't know, your room where you work with all the folders and nice files organized in specific order. So when we were all thrown quickly to teach online, many of us felt like, oh my God, how can I do without this folder or that folder, or how do I share certain materials with my students? So first, I'd like to quickly introduce myself because not everybody knows me. My name is Anna. You can just address me by name. Anna Tomkich is my last name. I am an EFL teacher, so I specialize in teaching English as a foreign language. I work as a director of studies at Lingua Grad Language Academy. You can see it on the picture. I specialize in teaching all levels and basically all ages. But of course, I have preferences, and my preferences are teaching for exam purposes, academic English, and English for specific purposes, particularly English for teachers and courses for teachers who want to pass certain examinations. So if you would like to introduce yourself using the same stems, that would be really helpful, because I'd like to see who am I working with today. I have 16 participants in one chat, and there is also Instagram streaming going at the moment, and that would be nice to see who is here. So if you could say who you are, what you teach, and what's your specialization or preference, it will help me to tune the presentation as we go along. Please leave a message in the chat room, and I will really follow the comments. Okay, right, now let's move on. Okay, so obviously, if many of you say that teaching online is okay, okay is a so-so word. Nobody say that it is excellent, amazing, and absolutely out of this world. But we have to admit that teaching online or learning online definitely has some benefits, definitely. So I have, in my experience, I believe that there are 4 main benefits to working online, learning and teaching online. And these benefits are encoded in these 4 pictures. Look at the pictures and please write in the comment what these pictures represent in your opinion. What are the benefits of teaching online? We have a picture of a computer with the books in it, picture of some plant, picture of a clock, and a picture of somebody storing the money. So if I can get some comments, that would be really nice. I already have some comments. People say that it's time saving. You save time and money. You stay at home. Something to do with the money. Something to do with the resources. Okay, because I have another chat going. It's resource saving, money saving. All right. Okay, that's enough answers. And absolutely right. The answer to this question is that, well, the key benefit that I find to teaching online is that it is very saving, and it saves 4 things. It saves time, definitely. It saves space, and storage, because you don't have to keep stacks of books. It saves the planet and particularly trees, eco-friendly, as some people say. Chopin says it's eco-friendly, absolutely right. And as many of you got it, it saves money. That is really, really important, because all you do, you just spend money on um, paying for the internet connection and ensuring your technology works. Other added costs, such as traveling to work, having to dress appropriately for work, they all disappear. Okay, so obviously there are some benefits, and because of these benefits, many of you admitted that teaching online is okay. It's not as bad as we thought it would be, which is great. I would like to add one more benefit, one more advantage, is that when you teach online and when you demonstrate to your students that you can navigate online easily, that's how you look to your students. You look like a person, a cool teacher with superpowers, and you earn students' respect. So that's a thing that is really worth striving for, because we all know when you get your students' respect, there is nothing that can go wrong with your course. The more important, it's very important to have students um, respect you and your course. So once you brush up your skills on how to use computer technology, uh, this respect becomes earned. All right, moving on. So as I promised, today I will share some tips and tools, particularly in 6 different fields. We will talk about some tools, and actually we will all pin it down to one particular tool. How to organize and share your materials online when you teach online. How to ensure needs and interests of your students to make sure they're met. How to ensure that the learning is self-paced and self-directed, because this is the actual description of the teaching online environment, the synchronous or asynchronous learning, that students, instead of a teacher, have to take responsibility for their own teacher, for their own learning. And as teachers who are used to working offline, we often take all this responsibility ourselves, and then you have troubles letting go. We will also talk about differentiation and providing on-demand material, and finally motivating, engaging students, and giving some personalized feedback to them, and so on. So let's start with organizing and sharing your materials. There is nothing easier than that, to organize and share your materials. It's not enough, and it's not actually necessary to have a very well-developed file system as you have it in your um, school or work area. Um, but you need to have some sort of imitation of the filing system. And luckily, we live in this highly technological age when we have access to all these cloud systems, clouds and storages. Cloud storages, there are many of them, many. It really depends on your preferences. There is a OneDrive, Dropbox, Google Drive, Yadi Disk, a mail storage system. Really, I can just go on and on. It really depends on your preferences and settings on your computer. I personally have several cloud systems, including the special cloud system that we use at my school, and to which only students, only teachers at my school have. So what cloud systems allowed us to do? They allowed us to keep and send large files, because I'm sure that when everybody was suddenly kicked out to this online environment, many tried to communicate with your students on WhatsApp, on different messengers. And the problem is with all these messengers, well, they don't allow you to send large files. So if you have to send a video instruction to your students, or a file that consists of several pages, you might have a problem with that. And second of all, any messengers, using the messengers, well, it's not really professional, because messengers are social tools for communication. Uh, when you teach online, that's still more formal. We have to adhere to academic standards, and communicating with students and their parents via WhatsApp, Viber, and other instant messenger systems, I mean, saying that that's unprofessional, that's saying nothing. So there should be a better way to do that. And one way to do that is to ensure that you have a good filing system on any kind of online cloud drive. So what they can be used in terms of teaching, not only to store materials for yourself, but you can actually store materials to give out resources to your students. So you don't have to send these large files. Keep your online library with additional resources for your students to use, and to set assignments. I know that sounds a little vague, so instead of just lecturing you on that, I'd like to show you how I use my filing system on my drive for my students, not for just random people, but particularly for my students. As I said, I have several drives. I hope, can you see the sharing of my, on your screens? I'm sharing my screen with you right now, and I'm sharing the view of my Google Drive. Google Drive. Let me show you. This spring, I was teaching a course at university, university in Astana, and I was teaching the course called Introduction to Linguistics. Introduction to Linguistics. As you can see on my Google Drive, I've created a folder, Introduction to Linguistics, and inside this folder, I placed all the key readings, main course book, you see key readings, so everything that kind of articles and additional books that I want students to look at throughout the course. I placed extra materials, and I placed the mid-course assignments here because quite often my students were not able to use the Platonist system because it wouldn't allow to send you large files, and having everything stored in one place helped me and my students to never have a problem with accessing the files. So every time my students had an excuse and they said, "Oh, Anna, please extend the assignment. I don't have access to the library," or "I live in a village," or "I don't have this book. I forgot this book in my dormitory. I forgot this book at my friend's house." That never worked as an excuse in my class, because I was just sharing the Google Drive link with my students and said, "Here is the access to online library. There you go. You have key readings, you have key articles." It's not an excuse not to do an assignment. Or I know that many of you college students who are present here today, and colleges often work with Platonist system, and universities also work with it. So the Platonist also is not very stable system. Students often complain that they don't have access to materials, they cannot download or upload things. So using a OneDrive kind of cloud system allows you to upload and download without any kind of problems. So of course, to help me organize that, for every course that I teach, I have, of course, a special folder. So it's not that I give access to my cloud to everybody who wants it, of course not. But if you are my student in a Introduction to Linguistic course, I will share access with you. That's how I do it. I place share, copy, share, and there you go. My students have an access to this. Or if you're a teacher and you attend my TKT course, you will have access to this particular folder, the TKT Module 2 Professional Development course. Those students who attended my course on critical thinking, they have the access to their own folder. And when they access it, there you go. All the information is organized here. There you go. So that's how cloud systems can be used, and it doesn't matter what particular cloud system you're using. Next tip. Any comments, issues? No comments. I don't see any comments. So moving on. Next, I said that we can organize our work in a way that helps us to meet students' needs and students' expectations. Well, nothing is more helpful than any kind of conducting surveys and allowing students to work at their own pace, at their own speed, and so on. Well, what I find helpful is different Google Forms and Google Docs. Of course, there are lots of additional tools which are similar to Google tools, which I used to apply in my practice all the time. But I stopped using other tools because Google have developed their tools to the level that really helps those people who work in education. So Google Forms can be used to collect feedback, to do tests, to collect responses, to do needs and analysis forms, and not to speak out of the blue. I'd like to share with you how particularly I use Google Forms for my classroom. So let me stop this share and go to another share. Okay, so as I said, Google Forms. For example, you can use forms to conduct needs analysis, collecting information about your students, collecting information about their preferences, because of course, when you work with them face to face every day, you know that, oh, my student prefers to work in pairs. Oh, my students hate writing assignments. They prefer speaking assignments. Or my students are better, perform better when I give them extra time and things like that. But when you work online, you're often limited in time. Students, just like you are now, I'm telling you to leave comments and ask questions, but you are being shy to answer, to leave comments. Students often don't say things that you notice in class. So instead of waiting for them to comment on certain preferences, you can just ask them about preferences. So in this form, for example, I asked my students how they prefer to work in class. Do they like to work individually? Do they like to work in pairs? Do they like to do more visual activities or more listening activities? And after my students answer the questions, bam, I go to answers and I have all the information collected and wonderfully presented to me. Looking at that, I can easily see that majority of my students prefer to work individually. And again, individually, majority. People also okay with having to work with partners. Yes, they say it's okay, they enjoy this. They also say it's okay to have group assignments. That tells me that in my online course, I should not just expect them to work individually all the time. I can allow them to work together, to work in groups, and to do things together because they like that. Also, I see that most of them prefer to have visual information, and little less people prefer hearing me. The fact that the majority of people prefer visualization shows me that I should use bright colors when I present something to my students. I should have pictures on my slides. I shouldn't just have a picture of me waving hands, but there should be more visual information coming. And Google Forms allowed me to collect this information. But that's not everything that you can do with Google Forms. There are lots of other things that you could do. For example, you could create mini tests, also using Google Forms. There you go. For instance, for one of my classes that I had to quickly switch, instead of teaching it in a regular format, I was forced to teach it online. And I had all my tests prepared, all my assessment prepared. So if you have SORI, Sochi, or whatever things prepared, you may feel like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? But there you go. I just copied and pasted everything into my Google form. and students were able to answer the questions in a multiple choice form. So tests and assessments could be also created here. Moreover, you can create feedback forms like that. When you finish teaching, you can create a form and ask your students to complete an assessment, self-assessment, or peer assessment, individual assessment of a certain course. I did that, and I collected responses, and I know that I quite did well on the course, because my students said that the teacher was qualified and very responsive to their needs. So now I see that my course was okay. My course was good, because the majority of students said that they were satisfied. Without using these forms, I would never have access to this information. There is one more thing that I want to demonstrate to you, and this is the use of forms, the kind of the Google Tables, Google Tables app. Many teachers do not really use it to the full extent, that's because they are not really informed on how to use it. So obviously, Google Forms look like an Excel file, and that may be confusing. You may be thinking, but I don't need another Excel file to keep it online. But that's not it. There are other things that Google offers to you. If you go to Google Tables over here, and then you click the gallery, also scroll down to the thing called образование, education, and bam, there are several things you can do here. These forms are already created for you. You don't have to make your own form. You can control attendance here really easily by just clicking present, absent, and so on. And the system will automatically calculate how many students attended the course, how many were late, how many were absent for a good reason or bad reason. So you can control attendance, which is very helpful, right, for teachers. If you don't have any kind of electronic journal, or I know that many of you have some kind of Kundelik or whatever system that you're using, but these systems provided by the government are quite often not stable and reliable. I know that many teachers keep two tracks. They keep the track of attendance and other things in one device, and they have their own personal record. So for your personal record, you can keep everything online. You can also create your own performance table. I know that at the end of the quarter, end of term, teachers are supposed to present a performance report, and quite often teachers don't know how to control that and how to combine the actual things and create beautiful tables. But if you use this template, it's called the template shablon, provided by the docs, you can easily just keep the track of grades of your students here, and then the system will automatically give you individual reports. And look, individual reports will be in a very beautiful form, because every student will have a graph created for him, and on this graph you can show and control how he did on his homework, on his one test, second test, and so on. So that could be actually really well reported and really well used. So that's another thing. And let me show you one more thing which can be used, for example, to plan your work throughout a month or throughout a year. I have been using this tool for about a year now, academic year, with my team. I manage one project, and on this project, several teachers work simultaneously. 3 teachers, me inclusive, work simultaneously and cooperate all the time. And there are also extra um, teachers, sorry, there are extra teachers that often get involved in the project, and we want them to see what work has been done and what we have planned. And when we plan that, we often get confused because there are 3 people, every person has his or her own schedule, and we have conflicts of schedule. So to avoid conflicts, we use the Google Calendar, and that's how it looks. Let me show you. We've been using it for the whole year. So you could actually see here that we started to use it in September, actually much easier. And we've been using it throughout these months. And we are now on, let me move it, on June, right here. On May, sorry, May. And this is how the calendar looks like. So our classes take places 3 times a week. And for every day we have like a topic planned and a special activity planned, and if we need anything to be done, anything to pass on to each other, you can build in links inside. For example, this lesson was prepared by me, and instead of having to run around with the copies and giving a copy of everything and sending hundreds of emails to my colleagues, I just built in a link, and my teachers can access the link, go to a lesson plan, and boom, they have all the information here, and we can collaboratively use this document, leave comments to each other, and plan a lesson together, or improve a created lesson. This is just developed by using calendar forms. The calendars are again in the templates. You can go, the templates right here, it says calendar over here. So you could use it just to plan your own routine, or routine together with your students, or routine together with your colleagues. Some people are asking if I will send the recording and presentation. I will send to those who leave me their contact information. I will do that. So Google Forms, Google Docs is a tool that is not only helpful in teaching, but it's also really helpful in organizing your work and keeping track of your personal and work documentation. This is very important, because I know we often struggle with that. It's like, how do I record that? Or at first, our management says like, oh, you just teach and enjoy, but then 3 months pass and your management want to see what you call it, the attendance reports and other reports, and you might be screwed because you didn't keep track of it. Using these forms, you can easily keep track in a very semi-automatic form. It's not purely automatic, it's only semi-automatic. You still have to do some of the work. So I hope that answers your question on how Google Forms can be used. Let's move on to the next point. And this next point is on the use of Google Classroom. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you're not, I will demonstrate it to you very soon. So Google Classroom is a platform which is free to use. It's also available on Google, and it's kind of an online learning and teaching platform that can easen up your teaching if you don't have if your school, if your college, if your university doesn't have any of their own platforms. And many colleges don't have such platforms, I know that. And many of the platforms offered on the market are quite expensive. So teachers are often they're not ready to invest their time and money, their budget into organizing the good learning of their students. So earlier was said that teaching online is money saving. So to offer you a money saving option, I want to show you how Google Classroom works. And let me just show you, just a second, move on to, okay, so that you will have a full view. Okay. And I will show you even two kinds of organizing a Google Classroom. So if you have a Google account, then there is nothing difficult in creating your own Google Classroom. The link is classroom.google.com, and you can create several classes here. So just to show you that. I've been using Google Classroom for about 4 years now, and over these 4 years, the platform has developed quite a lot. It used to be not as friendly, but now it's just amazing. There are so many built-in tools. You can see that I've been teaching it to teach my IELTS courses, my critical thinking courses, the TKT exam, and the Teach IELTS courses. I want to show you how these things can be organized. So for example, this is how the classroom looks like. On top here, I can leave tasks for my students, and I can organize tasks by topics. So the topics are listed here on the left. And if my students miss the class or they want to revise a particular topic, this is where they go. They just click a certain course, a certain topic. Let's say they teach, for example, they choose this. And within this, they have tasks from me. They have, for example, video resources that I built in. They have extra materials, handouts, and so on. I can also place tasks for my students. I love Google Classroom because it allows you to create tools and forms and built-in videos right away. So for instance, if I decide to create a new task, I just go to, for example, tasks, create a new task, and I even can choose, see, I can choose a task with a test. I can just ask a question and create a questionnaire. I can just add material and connect it to my Google Drive back to my cloud and give my online library, or I can reuse some materials. So for instance, if I decide to create a test right away, many of you have tests already developed. The tests are all developed, and you keep them in a typed format, and all of a sudden, usually you print them out and give them to students, but all of a sudden you were told that that your class is online and you cannot print out something really quickly and give it to your students. All you need to do, just open Google Forms. You create task and you write, your test is today, your test today, and I quickly create a form. I don't even need to open anything additional. I just go directly to blank quiz form, bam. To blank quiz form, and bam, I'm already cool in creating the form. I can create a question, options to the question, and then later when my students answer, I can collect answers. Moreover, what if I want to make, for example, two variants? Вариант 1, вариант 2, вариант 3, как это бывает в колледжах, университетах. I can assign this task, and for example, this is test only for group 1. And what I do, I go to all students in my class and I select only those students that are in group 1. So for example, Aygul, Anastasia, Asel, and Asel, they will be group 1. So these students will work on this test. And if I have more students, for example, more tests, I can assign more people to this. So this is very handy and very helpful. Then if I teach the same course the next year, I can just reuse this material online. So one way to organize it like this, well, it may look a little daunting for you if you've never worked on Google Classroom, but believe me, it is quite doable. My mother-in-law is a teacher of physics, and she never taught in Google Classroom before. She was just overnight, she was asked to create something and start working online. It took me about 30 minutes to explain to her how the Google Classroom works, and bam, 1 hour later, all her classes were moved to this online platform. She teaches her 8th grades and her college students all on this platform. Her college classes, uh, for instance, they usually have one topic per week. So I helped her in organizing this, and she keeps, for example, the topic is right here. She sets the dates, sets the topics, and as the students click it, they have access to all the information. They have access to the lecture, access to the video, which she recorded, uploaded, and she did everything herself. And in this video, she gives, for example, instructions to her students. As you can see, my mother-in-law is not very young, but she is a very experienced teacher who most of her life, 40 years of her teaching happened in offline format. So I would understand if a person like her complains and say, oh my God, teaching online is such a daunting thing, but she doesn't complain. She just quickly embraced the new technology and learned how to use Google Classroom. Also, Google Classroom allows you to share materials personally with your students, assign them to different people, give tests, give out questionnaires, and so on, which all together allow you to self-paced learning, self-direct learning, attend to student needs and interests, and to provide individual feedback, because as students upload their work, you can provide individual feedback, particularly to a student, as opposed to giving the feedback to the whole group. So if there are no questions here, we'll move on to the next point. So yeah, Google Classroom is something that allows you to meet most of the needs that we listed here, to organize your work, to ensure your needs, student needs, to differentiate learning, and most importantly, it's free, so you don't have to invest any of the resources. Also, if your colleges, universities, schools are not ready to invest extra money in creating an online platform, Google Classroom is the answer to this. Finally, I wanted to say a few things on how to engage students in class and how to motivate them. Having to teach online doesn't mean that we need to stop doing fun activities in class. We still can do a lot of fun things. And I know that many of you use Kahoot in classes, but as soon as the situation changed and we started to teach online, teachers just stopped using the fun things, and you guys shouldn't do that. So I know that since everybody is familiar with Kahoot, I'm not going to show you how it works. Instead, I just want to remind you that it can still be used online. And if you're interested to learn about how to use these in a classroom, I've added a really nice article for you here. So if you're interested in getting the slides, just read the article and try to apply using this, try to apply Kahoot for your online classes. Another thing, which again, I know many teachers use, but might stop using as soon as we move to online format, is Quizlet. Again, Quizlet is an online thing, allows you to do lots of interesting activities. So they could be very motivating for your students. And again, if you want to remind yourself how to use this, how to use them better for your class, just ask me to send you the slides, and you will have access to wonderful articles that give you practical tips on how these tools can be used in a classroom. And one more tool is Padlet. We have been using this tool very effectively in class. And there are lots of variations how these could be used for writing homework, assignments, setting tasks, and so on. So again, you might have used this before, but you stopped using it online. Please don't stop. These tools are very effective, easy to use. They don't require extra registration, and that's why I added extra interesting links here for you to read. Of course, you might not believe me, and I totally understand. You might think like, okay, there is no way they're using all of this simultaneously. Yeah, we do. For instance, Padlet. I'm not lying to you when I'm saying that Padlet is very can be used in online classes. For instance, let me just quickly, just not to be uh, lying to you, let me show you. Here's my page, LinguaGrad Padlet, and these are the Padlets I usually use in offline format. Okay, but as soon as we moved online, new things were created and we continue teaching online using this. For example, I discovered that there is a wonderful messaging mode, and we created a text messaging platform. Like, it's just loading. There you go. I didn't write all this text. I'm telling you, I didn't write this text. This text was written by students collaboratively, while everybody was sitting at his or her own computer, and they had a task to write a paragraph. Here's the task by the teacher, Anna, sent the task, and other people started to complete the task. They posted pictures and made comments, posted pictures and made comments, and so on. So it integrated several things. Moreover, I was doing, for example, a warm-up activity for my class, and we were talking about fact and fiction. So I created this Padlet where I gave different facts to my students, or fiction, I can't tell you now, and you could just vote if you believe it's a fact or a fiction, and then we moved it to a discussion mode. So just to one more time to highlight it, there's lots of tools that have multiple applications. I mostly work offline, and actually for the past 2 years I work about 50-50 offline and online. So moving to online format wasn't news to me, but still I had to rethink several of the things and come up with better ways of doing things. So that's exactly what I suggest to you. Just don't give up on using the old tools. Just think of how they could be reapplied to the new online environment. Any questions? I don't see any questions. So basically the whole idea is that if used properly, tools that offered to you can be used to save everything. Save your time, save your money, save your writing reports, save your space at home with online libraries, and so on. I've also added some extra links to PowerPoint to help you with what other online resources are absolutely free and available for teachers, what websites we can use, and what free resources offered by large companies and holdings such as British Council. If you'd like access to that, I'm more than willing to share. There are several ways you can do that. You can either contact me, that's me. You can contact me at this contact information through my email or through the website or through one of the Instagram pages. If you're watching Instagram streaming right now, or you could just leave your information by scanning this code right now. And if you scan this code, you can easily go to the feedback form. And the feedback form is the form which I created using the Google Documents. If you're watching me right now on Zoom, then take out your phone and scan the QR code. If you don't know how to use that, I will show you that in a minute, and I will also give you a link to a feedback form that I'd like you all to complete. I will send it in the chat. Just a second. Everybody who completes this form will leave their information to me. They will leave their email address, and I will use these email addresses to send you the slides from this presentation. I will now stop the streaming. Many thanks for attending the live streaming. Okay.